Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. So we begin this new journey with the character of the Muslim, becoming the best, becoming the best version of me. Here we want to talk about the importance of prophethood or the importance of the coming of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to humanity, and how prophethood itself is about the idea of bringing the best out of people. We have a hadith, بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق وصالح الأخلاق. There's two narrations of the hadith when the Prophet ﷺ is saying that his mission is tied into the completing of people's character. So there's this acknowledgement that there's good, that people have goodness to them. And people need to learn how to polish themselves. They need to learn how to better themselves. Islam looks at the human being in a very positive way. And Islam looks at that potential that the human being has and calls forth that potential. In other words, it encourages whatever good is there to be developed more and more and for it to become more and more complete. All of us have goodness to us, but sometimes we fall short on different areas within our lives, and that's natural from the angle of who the human being is. Human beings are not necessarily perfect beings in the sense of being without fault, being without sin, being without struggle, being without defects, being without things that we have to work on. And so when we look at the idea of character in Islam, the idea of character is something that's central. We have the idea of identity, and we can all come from different cultural identities. And that's what makes us diverse in the world, that we come from different cultural identities. But not everything in our culture is representative of the best person that we could be. And culture itself, at the core, it can't give us the reality of who we are. Character is what gives us the reality of who we are. And character has a lot to do with what goes on in our heart. It has a lot to do with our behavior, right? And then that's expressed in our different cultures. But character is what Islam is aiming at. Islam is not aiming at destroying our culture. What Islam does is it enhances our culture, it betters our culture because of this issue of character, because of this issue that it calls us to have a strong character. And what we learn is that the pillars of Islam have everything to do with having an impact on our character. So Salah itself is supposed to get us to a point that it prohibits those actions which are problematic, those actions which cause harm, those actions which bring harm to ourselves and bring harm to others, right? It's supposed to give us that tie-in to Iman, that tie-in to belief, and so that we have a relationship with Allah and we have this understanding of what is our responsibility towards Allah, towards ourselves, towards others. Zakat as an idea of practice is that which it calls us to purify our wealth and to emotionally be tied into the situation of others. In other words, to be empathetic, to have sensitivity to the situations of others. Fasting is that which gives us a sense of control over ourselves, not to destroy our sense of desire, but to put it in its proper place, so that we know what is the role of desire and how it is that desire can build us or how it is that it can destroy us. Hajj itself, what it does is it recalls for us death. It forces us to struggle. It calls for us to worship with our wealth and with our bodies and with our hearts. And that's why Hajj is such an act that it requires different types of efforts in order to complete. Of those efforts, It is the spending of our money. It is the giving of our time. It is the struggle with our bodies. It is the right intention. It is the control of the self. And so with that, we learn that ultimately the pillars of Islam are to build our character, right? The pillars of Islam are to build our character. The pillars of Islam are tied into this mission of prophethood itself, which is to perfect character, to perfect what goes on in our hearts. What kind of intentions do we have? What kind of feelings that we have, right? And so worship, although it has been made an obligation, it is tied into the reality of bringing out the best people that we can be, right? And so we want to leave with this understanding that the Prophet ﷺ was sent with this mission of elevating the human being by elevating those qualities which are the best qualities that we can have as human beings, and to decrease those qualities which are the worst qualities that we have. And so we're always in that balance. That's what jihadul nafs is. That's what our struggle is with ourselves, is to decrease those qualities which are problematic, which are negative, which are evil, which are harmful, and to elevate those qualities that we have which are good, which are positive, which are beneficial. And we're always in that struggle between those two realities with ourselves. And there are times in which we can be at peace with ourselves, but peace with ourselves will never come in a complete form until we enter Jannah, until we enter into heaven. But in this world, we're constantly tested with keeping that balance with ourselves and minimizing the amount of harm that we cause to others and cause to ourselves, and increasing the amount of benefit that we bring to others and we bring to ourselves in a way that's pleasing to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. The character of the Muslim is central to our Iman. Prophethood itself is focused on the idea of perfection of the character of the human being, right? And so being the best version that we can be, it starts with this issue of bringing out the best qualities that we can have in our hearts, the best qualities that we can have in dealing with each other. And then it excels to other areas. It goes to other areas such as being good thinkers, being healthy, being the best that we could be at our jobs. And that is what we call ihsan, the issue of elevation of ourselves for the sake of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala on multiple levels, by taking on those qualities which allow us to be the best human beings that we can be. Until next episode, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.